Everyone. It's nice to see the sun come out here in LA. We've had a lot of cloudy days, but we have got the sun here. We're excited just to kick off this season with the training camp roster that we've put together, which includes these draft picks that I'm sure you all are wanting to talk a lot more about. Definitely a big kudos. Want to say a big thank you to our scouting team that helped us throughout the last 6-7 months in preparing for this draft. There was a lot of work that went into it. And to give you all a little bit of background, that team consisted of myself, Eli Horowitz, our assistant general manager, Curt Miller as our head coach, who's also served in the GM role before in Connecticut, where he helped build that team to an annual playoff team. We also had Nola Henry, an assistant coach on Curt's staff, who has a lot of experience with Curt as well as with this league. And then Steve Smith, who again has a ton of experience with the league and seeing players. He has a lot of great relationships in the league. We went through this process looking at three main areas. We wanted to look at the analytics, which we call the numbers. And through those analytics, we looked at advanced metrics. We looked at traditional metrics. We looked at how they compared the college level, WNBA level. We looked at win shares, a lot of things that we believe were needs for us as we built out this team. We also looked at things from the eye test, just the basketball IQ, especially through Curt's lens, his system, his experience, understanding how, providing context around the numbers. And then we also wanted to make sure culture fit. That's the ears, what we hear about them, what we hear from them, understanding them more as people, as humans, what resources they need to help them be successful, what's worked for them in the past and what hasn't worked for them in getting to their best selves, and making sure that we're an organization where that's a great marriage and great fit. We went into this draft, obviously, with the 2, 4, and the 28, and we're very comfortable with those picks. And we were very comfortable with the strategy that we had going into it, and are feeling just ecstatic with where we landed. In many ways, could not have asked for it to feel better the morning after. So just I'm going to keep it at that for right now. I'm sure there's a lot of questions. Curt, I'd love to hand the baton off to you.
Welcome, everybody. Thanks, Raegan. To reiterate, an exciting night for the Sparks and our continued build with 2 very high draft picks and obviously an early 3rd round pick. The collaboration that Raegan created throughout her time of preparing for this draft is remarkable. She mentioned what that team made up of, including an entire analytic team that was not mentioned. So again, just a shout out to the leadership that Raegan provided. It was such a collaborative effort, from start to finish. So really excited about the pieces that we've added on the floor. For us, very, very excited last year with our growth, despite all the injuries throughout the season. Especially proud that after the All-Star break, analytically, we were the #1 defensive team in the league. It's been a staple of my success with different teams in the league, and had the opportunity to coach some really, really good defenders. Within those defensive analytics, as shared last night, you still looked at the analytics that we were near the bottom of the standings in overall rebounding and certainly rim protection. So that was a point of emphasis to continue to look at in this draft, and really excited that we've added pieces that will help to that. So again, appreciate the coverage. What a draft class, really special to have 2 picks early in what has been a really special draft class and galvanized the country and women's basketball viewership. at an all-time high at the collegiate level. Just, hats off to these outstanding women and what they've done for our game and viewership.
Thank you, Curt. We'll start off with Rashawn, and Sabrina, you'll go after him.
Thanks, Lauren. Raegan, when you look at this draft, obviously the number 2 pick, how enticing, I guess, how much of that went into you actually kind of wanting this job, right? And then seeing it come into fruition last night, how did it sort of play itself out for you on a personal level?
Well, honestly, I haven't had a lot of time to process it on a personal level. Just to be really honest, I'm looking forward to taking a minute. I don't know when that's going to be, but um, yeah, at the same time, I'll tell you genuinely, I've walked through my role in basketball, whether it was as a player. It definitely has a lot to do how I was raised by my dad involved in the game, the coaches that I had, the friends that I've had, Curt included, mentors. But as a coach, in any kind of way, I've never felt like this was about me. It's not about me. So my feelings on it are really secondary. My personal feelings on it are completely secondary to what the integrity of my why is. And it's about putting a team together and putting them in a position to chase their most best version of themselves individually, collectively, and ideally also discovering their favorite version of themselves and have joy with it, have fun with it. It is a lot of hard work. The team that we just acknowledged and putting this all together, as well as, the event last night, the staff that put that together, Casamigos being a presenting partner and Level, just their partnership in this as well. All of that put together is so special, but it's all about these women and this team that we have put together.
Thank you. And for Coach Miller, you talked about just this draft, right? And so much attention that has been garnered in the women's game of late. And people are calling this maybe an all-time draft in the sense of the talent that was available. You've been a part of a lot of these WNBA drafts. Did it feel different just from like an excitement level, or was it just more business as usual for you, once you got in that war room last night?
Yeah, there was excitement. Obviously my first year in Connecticut, we had the 3 and the 4. And that really jump-started my time in Connecticut. And we made the trade, the famous trade of Chelsea Gray for JJ and Jonquel Jones, and watched how that worked out for both teams. And so after that, I never had a high draft pick. So yes, this process through the entire year of scouting, credit to Karen Bryant, who's not on this call, that really helped us down the stretch to execute to pick up the 4 pick with a trade. That was really important. So it felt special, and it felt like it's going to be the foundation to our build. And we're not putting any limitations on how fast that build is, but last night really felt like the start of what I came here to do, and was to build the Sparks back into a championship franchise that they've been, and help it serve these players, become, a legacy program again. And, it's not coach speak when you hear Raegan. She pours into people, and she wants to serve all the outstanding women of this franchise. So it's really fun. It felt different last night. Haven't had an early pick in a long time, so it felt different.
Thank you both. Congrats.
Thanks, Rashawn. Sabrina, you're up next, and then Mark, you'll come after.
Hey, Curt, Raegan, for either of you, I imagine that the philosophy with 2 high picks is just best player available, but I'm also curious how you see Cameron and Rakia working together on the court. Like, is Rakia more of a wing? Are they your 2 bigs going forward? Like, what do you envision out of the 2 of them?
Curt, you want to take that? There's a lot of the X's and O's in the coaching.
Sure. Sabrina, there was lots of talk. Like when you have someone picking in between, you don't know exactly how it's going to play out. That's the fun part, the chess match of the evening. But the synergy and playing together, these 2 picks played a part of that. And, we feel that they're a really nice combination. And they're both modern basketball. As much as we talk about our success last year in defense and continue improving rebounding and rim protection, we do know that we need to score more. And so the versatility to Cameron Brink's game and the growth that she'll show years from now, still the modern basketball that she potentially brings to the table. And then you could argue, I'll argue with anyone that Rakia might be the best 3-level scorer in this draft that were available early on. So while we talk a lot about rim protection and rebounding, the scoring and how they could play together was certainly part of the game plan.
Thanks, Coach.
Okay, Mark, and then we'll follow him up with Maria.
Hey, all, first off, congratulations. Curt, I wanted to ask you, kind of following up on that. Like, obviously, versatility is the name of the game. You've coached a lot of fantastic front court players and gotten the most out of them. Is there maybe like challenge might be the wrong word, but like, how do you work to get the most out of versatile players? So I think there's an idea like, you're versatile, you can do a lot, but there's intentionality behind that. So, what are you maybe most excited about with finding out how to mix and match what they can do?
Yeah, what stresses me a little bit is how short our camp is. But I pride myself, again, I've had a long career, but pride myself in putting players in position to be successful. But you have to learn those players. So as much as we studied Cameron, as much as we studied Rakia, as much as we've, loved down the street here, Kenzie, until you really work with them to understand their versatility and where they best can be put in positions to be successful, you don't quite know. So I can't wait to tinker. I can't wait to play with that. At the same time, I love our depth. I love our depth. People will, say that we don't have an all WNBA first team player on our team, but I challenge that we have great pros and we have great depth this year. So I can't wait to tinker with it. And it will be constant. It's not just going to be a tinkering in May. We're going to be tinkering, all year to put these players in position to be successful, but can't wait for that challenge.
Thanks, Curt.
Maria Cornelius, GoVols 247 Sports Tennessee. I'm obviously going to ask about Rakia Jackson because the scouting team that GM Pebley had mentioned, and this question is for both of you. We noticed that the LA Sparks were in Knoxville several times to see games, and wondering, what did you see, Rakia, either practice games, what did you like? And specifically for the GM, you mentioned that the players in this draft were going to be foundational pieces for the organization. How does Rakia fit into that definition?
Well, thank you, Maria, and thank you for the coverage of our game, all of you. Thank you for the coverage of your game. I will tell you, we did spend quite a bit of time in Knoxville, and not just watching games, but a part of our eye test was also to do our work on how they prepared for the games. We watched them in practices. We watched and found out as much information we could on how they value skill development, what kind of skill development they've had already in the past. And, Rakia had spent time at Mississippi State as well as Tennessee. And she, one of the things that we found interesting is her analytics continue to grow in a lot of ways, even though the coaching changes she went through were frequent. And her commitment to skill development was significant. She found ways. There can be great players that become really good within this constructs of the system that they're in. But I think a pro is a player that can adapt their game to the system that they're put into. That's part of the evidence also of how versatile that she is, and the IQ that she has is that she's been able to adapt while still producing under what's being asked of her. She was the all-time leading scorer, or not all-time, sorry. She was the leading scorer in the SEC this past year, 3 straight years of 20-point scoring, nearly 20 point scoring in the SEC, and averaging over 15 points a game in all of her seasons, 5 seasons of college. So we just really felt like what we were seeing in practice, what we knew of her skill development, her adaptability, as well as her versatility, combined with her competitive edge. That is a very tough league. And, we also knew she was coming from a program. We have Rae Burrell from Tennessee already on our roster that has a legacy in women's basketball. And I think there's something to be said for that.
Maria, I'll jump in here quick. Again, I reiterate, spending 24 years at the collegiate level, there is outstanding beat writers and members of the media that really help grow our game in individual markets. None better than you. Appreciate what you do for our game. Appreciate what you do for Tennessee. But Maria, I will tell you that, sometimes potential is a coach killer, but, part of the process is trying to evaluate the ceiling of all these great players in this draft. And I do believe Rakia's ceiling is crazy high, and she hasn't approached it yet. So look forward to pushing her, driving her, challenging her, coaching her to try to reach that ceiling, because I think she hasn't even come close to it yet, which is really exciting for us. And we're not afraid of that word potential, even though we know at times that can be looked at it in a different way. But we're really excited about what she brings. I'm with Team USA. We'll be on the Olympic staff. We got to play them in exhibition. And one of the things that is not talked about probably as much, and De'Erica Hamby, one of our players who was out in New York to greet our 3 draft picks, but our 2 that were there, mentioned also, is until you really are up close and personal with Rakia, you don't realize how big she is. And she's got great length, and there's a real there was a real commitment to get even bigger for us. Lee LaRue coming in at 6'7", adding Cameron Brink, adding Rakia, making a commitment to Rae Burrell. We've just really wanted to get longer and bigger, and I think we've accomplished that.
Thank you both.
Thanks, Maria. Next, we'll go for Brad, and Jack will follow after.
Hi, Coach Ann. Hi, Raegan. It's Bradley from WNBA Swish. Congratulations on your draft. Can either of you speak of Mackenzie and what sparked your interest in her? What made her stand out to your scouting, and what her work ethic and style of play can bring to the Sparks?
I appreciate definitely your question, and also your long-time coverage of the Sparks, Brad. And we're excited for this partnership continuing on. But Mackenzie, I feel like I have a little bit of a unique story behind her, in that I've been able to watch and spend some time with the Harvard men's basketball staff, Tommy Amaker, and over the last couple years, her brother played there. She played at Harvard. And so as I was spending time out there, I'd always connect in with their women's program and Carrie Moore, who's done a great job there. So I watched her be just elite in how she competed and elevated that program at Harvard. When she came to USC, we got to see her do the same thing in partnership with her head coach, Lindsay Gottlieb, their staff, as well as, Juju playing alongside a star, and seeing her be excellent in the role that she was in, and also celebrating the role that was by her and next to her. And that goes a long way. Analytically, I think you look at some things with her, just knowing the 3-point shot, consistency in that space, that's important for us. Having a great interior game is important, but you need to give them space, and shooters are one way that you can do that. Curt mentioned length. That was another asset we felt like Mackenzie brought. I like her assist numbers as well. She did some nice things in that space and trying to recognize and seeing where her teammates were going to be set up for success. And then again, I'll just go to the off court. She comes from a great legacy of basketball players. Her dad being a Harlem Globetrotter, her grandfather being drafted by the Lakers in 1960 and being a Globetrotter. I already mentioned her brother. She comes from a great program up there in Folsom. So it was honestly a surprise to us, but an absolute dream to us that she was still on the table for us at 28.
Jack Church, the Daily Beacon. I covered Tennessee, so I'll also be asking about Rickea Jackson. Last night, she mentioned that she didn't really know what to expect from that draft process. She expected to just kind of show up to the draft and then get picked. So what did you see from her in those pre-draft interviews throughout that process?
Well, really, I think just the team that she's put around her, I think, have done a nice job in preparing her and expecting her. So where I believe that she maybe just wasn't quite sure what to expect, I also know that she was ready. And you saw those 2 outfits. She was ready to go with that night. But I think just in general, Rickea has a really great basketball IQ. A really good basketball IQ, and she wants to win. You heard that from her immediately in her post interview with Holly Rowe. She talked about it in the press conference. She wants to win, and that was important for us. We listened specifically for the words winning and championships and competitiveness. This is an incredible market for women's basketball. It's an incredible market for professional athletes. But there's an expectation and a desire that we have to have this be a culture of winning. And we wanted people that mirrored that innately. So we were really excited to hear that was a part of her focus and intentionality in being in LA and wanting to be in LA. Curt, I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that.
No, the process is thorough, and it's usually eye-opening for any draftee, how much teams pour into the interviews and how important that is. So I think that, it's not a surprise that some of these guys don't know how much, one, we're going to value that, how much it's not all softballs and rainbows and butterfly questions. We put them through where our league doesn't have a combine. We put everybody through, an interview process. It's very important for us, and thought, Rickea was very well organized for it.
Okay, last 3 questions. We'll go Nick, Dennis, and Amanda. You'll finish us off.
All right, Nick Hamilton, Nightcast Media. This question is for both of you. When you drafted these 2 players, obviously Cameron, especially, and being in LA, being the second largest market, what are you looking forward to as far as having these ladies help, sell and market the franchise, not just to the city of LA, but across the league as well?
Nick, also, thank you for your longtime coverage of this team. Well, first I'd say we do recognize, and especially with the NIL space that's happening at the college game, women's basketball players, men's basketball players, I think all athletes, they're coming to the pro level with already a lot more experience in that space. And they have their followers, they have their brand partnerships, they have all of that. So, that's an evolving space for, I think, all professional leagues right now to pay attention and to really put into the process and insert into a process. But more of anything, it's just making sure that there is a healthy relationship there between the organization and the athlete. But I think the primary focus, the main thing is going to stay the main thing. They got to be ready to produce and they got to be ready to play, and they've got to have the capability to meet what the standard is and the need is on the court, not just in the short term, but in the long term. And we really felt like with Cameron and Rakia and the direction that we are wanting to head and the vision that we have on the floor, there was a great match there.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Nick.
Okay, Dennis.
Hi, Dennis Freeman, newsforusonline.com. So I have a two-part question. The first part is for both of you, Raegan and Coach Miller. Is there a certain, or can you pinpoint one particular thing that has generated this surge of interest in women's basketball? And the second part to this question is, you had talked about culture. Could you elaborate a little bit more about the culture of the LA Sparks?
I love it, Dennis. I love that. We should sit down and have a longer conversation sometime. But both of those questions deserve more time. I would say there's a lot that goes into why women's basketball is it's getting so much attention right now. It doesn't happen with all of the work and the effort of all the players that have picked up a ball in the past. I think there's people that have invested a lot of money with the WNBA, from our ownership to the league office, to help prepare it for moments like this. And it's takes time. It takes time for any and every league. I think there's choices that people have made most recently, but also 25 plus years ago, 50 years ago. Title IX is an example of that we're seeing the benefits come from that. I think media members, we have media members that have invested a lot into the women's basketball game, and without getting paid for it. Let's just be real, right? Without getting a penny for it, that have believed in this game, that have found a way to spread the word and just share the energy and the excitement about it, and people are paying attention. I think social media, NIL, women, female athletes and NIL have a lot to do with that. So I think it's unfair to just put it into one answer, one specific thing. I think there's a lot of pieces that have started to come together, and the good news is I think it's all sustainable, and that we can continue to build off of that. We always said that women's basketball did not have a product problem. We had a marketing problem. And I think there's some elements to that the athletes themselves have also done a phenomenal job of taking their marketing in their own hands and enhancing that through social media. That's helping us. So the second part of your question, remind me what it was, Dennis, and then I will give Curt
cultural
the mic.
fit.
Cultural fit. Yeah. I mean, culture for us is so important. You've got to have pieces that can help win. That's part of a culture. And we're not going to be embarrassed about saying that is going to be, we want a winning culture here. How you get that also becomes the culture. We want a culture of, again, supporting these athletes to chase the best version of themselves, resourcing them with the things they need to do that. Accountability is going to be a big part of it. Shared leadership on and off the floor will be a part of that. We're going to have a culture of inclusivity and creating a sense of belonging for our athletes and our staff as well, the front office, and our fans. We want them to feel a sense of belonging. They're a part of this ride and this journey as well. Curt?
Thank you.
Dennis, I'll jump in here. First part, I think ironically, as much as COVID And the ability to play extra years has been nerve-wracking for pro coaches waiting for people to come. I think it's really helped a lot of the storylines at the collegiate level. And the players in women's basketball are not one and done. And a lot of them have elected to take their COVID year. So it's years more of rivalries being present to the fan bases. It's years more of getting these collegiate women player as household names. You hear it time and time again right now is more people are able to talk about the top women's collegiate players right now in the game than the top men's players because we don't have the one and done. And this is where COVID, ironically, I think has helped us in some of the storytelling of our game. And so it's just really helped viewership, rivalries. It's brought more eyes onto our game. And we've always said, once you truly watch women's basketball, you realize how great a product it is. It's uncanny. If you can get people to attend pro games, the talent and our game is incredible to watch. It's incredibly physical. People have no idea how physical our game is that way. So, Dennis, I think that's played a part. Ironically, as much as I want people to come in to the WNBA, I think it's helped contribute to where we're at right now. Culture, I'm bullish. I believe in women's basketball, truly believe. I've always had in my 20 plus years as a head coach, either at the Division I level or the pro level, is you have to win championships in the locker room before you can win them on the court. You have to have a great locker room. That culture is built in the locker room. It's really, really important to us. I have a big philosophy in that locker room is I want each one of the players to fight for the role they want every day, fight for the role they want, but be a champion in the role that they have earned at that point. And that is really, really important that we are together in that locker room, that no one stops fighting for the role they truly want, but you're a champion in the role that you've earned at that moment of your career. Again, I just believe in it, how they support each other and fight with each other and the family that we create behind the scenes. The pro game's a little bit more transactional than the collegiate game. It's a little bit more transactional, but creating that family bond, that sisterhood, and important to me at this level, the better teams that are peer-led than coach-led at the pro level is the way to go. You know, Becky's doing a tremendous job, and when Raegan and I both, you know, were part of Becky in Colorado State. But again, watching that Vegas team be peer-led by their superstars is what's really special from an outsider looking in, and that's what you desire. Our Connecticut teams that went to 4 straight semifinals or finals were very much peer-led. I was a manager. I was managing all those great players, wasn't necessarily having to coach and micromanage. You become a little bit more of a manager with great peer-led teams, and that's the culture that we're trying to create. But we truly believe in this build, you have to have a championship locker room before you can win a championship on the court.
All right. Thank you, Coach Miller, and thank you, Raegan. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
We have time for one last question, Amanda.
Hello, I just wanted to ask, last night I found out that Zia Cook had a very strong relationship with Rakia. I was wondering, how did that kind of impact your draft making decisions? Like, how did you come to know about this relationship? This is for both of you. Yeah, that's my question.
Yeah. I think in general, the women's basketball community is a sisterhood, and the way they all grow up playing club ball together, USAs, McDonald's All-Americans, different camps, they end up getting connected with way more players than people probably realize. And what I love about women's basketball is how supportive they are of each other and how they celebrate each other. So We do consider that, but we also really, really feel strongly that that is more reflective of our game and not just one specific team or dynamic. Thanks, Amanda.
Amanda, I'll jump in here too and just share because I haven't been able to brag on Kenzie Forbes, but it's just speaking in how small the basketball community is and how much we're related. You know, Raegan talks about her visiting Harvard through the years. I coached against Carrie Moore in the MAC when she led the nation in scoring, and now as a head coach at Harvard. So we had that, you know, relationship when I was all those years at coaching at Bowling Green, knew the Harvard coach. Raegan's connection. And then our player development director, Danielle Viglione, is from the Sacramento area, and she has countless pictures in her phone of Kenzie and her when Kenzie was just a little bitty dribbling around, and how Danielle, who's our player development coach, worked with Kenzie growing up. Nan, my longtime co-pilot, who worked beside me and I believe was the top WNBA assistant in the entire league last year, Chris Koklanis, is back at USC and is now Kenzie's individual coach at USC. My co-pilot for 8 years in the WNBA is working with Kenzie on a daily basis. Text me this morning, getting ready to go into the gym this morning with Kenzie. So the basketball community is so small, and it's amazing how you get connected. And we have so many connections to Kenzie Forbes that we are ecstatic that she dropped to 28.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for joining today. We really appreciate the media coverage. Like they said, it really goes to growing our game, so we appreciate it. We'll be sending out this recording soon, and if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out. Thank you, everyone.